Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Jonesin 4 Show. Today we have another awesome guest for you. He is young, he is reared and ready to go, take life by the horns. He was one of my students when I was teaching. Today we have the amazing Alex Ullrich with us. Welcome to the show.
That's quite the introduction, thank you.
One for you to live up for, right?
Exactly, yeah. Hope I don't disappoint there.
Well, we'll see what we could offer for you today. I thought it'd be fun to have Alex on the show because, well, he's younger, right? I'm in my 30s here, and we've had people of all ages here, but we haven't had one who just graduated high school. So, first of all, congratulations.
Thank you.
A huge accomplishment in graduating high school. I remember when I did, and it was an amazing thing. And now you're heading off to college. Where are you going, and what are you planning on pursuing?
I'm going to the University of Texas at Austin next year.
Wow.
And, yeah.
So Texas, first of all, so we live in Wisconsin right now. So what made you choose the opposite side of the country?
Quite a few things. I have some family down in Dallas, which isn't too far from Austin, and so they had been recommending that I check it out, and then actually one of your old coworkers, Dean Verstaegen, told me that he thought I would do well in Austin. He said that was a place he could see me going, and so I said, okay, well, why not? The academics look good, I'll tour it, and I toured it, and I just fell in love with it. The city, awesome. The school, the people, it was amazing.
It's amazing how you can get a feel for a college just by touring it. I mean, you don't get the full, experience because you're not living there full time, but at least you get a good taste of it and see what that environment's like to fit you. I know I did when I went to college, and awesome job. How many colleges did you tour?
In total, probably 5 or 6.
Okay.
And I ended up applying to, I think, 5. Not all the ones I toured. Some of them were just sort of throw them out there, see if I get it. But
gotcha. And that's something I did as well, and I suggest all of you do, or you have your kids do, right, to apply to different colleges. You get some of the hopefuls, the big ones out there, like, we'll see what happens, and then other ones that, you like, and all, everywhere in between, really. So, you said you're going to Texas. What are you going for? Like, what degree are you hoping to achieve?
That is the $1 million question. Almost literally, but I have it narrowed down to several things.
Okay.
I feel like I keep adding more things to this list, but I'm thinking about possibly computer science, finance, neuroscience, or this interdisciplinary, it's called Plan 2 honors. It's like a liberal arts type degree.
Okay.
And so I can pick 2 doably out of this list. And right now, if I were to choose today, I would probably pick computer science and neuroscience, but
wow,
if I were to choose tomorrow, I have no idea. And I think it'd be fun in a couple of years to go back and listen to this and be like, oh wow, I didn't end up going with any of those things.
And now look what I'm doing, something totally opposite,
yeah.
And nothing what I dreamed of. And that's one of the fun things. And for me, when I was in high school and I graduated, I went to be a music composer. I went to compose music for movies. That was what I wanted to do. And I never ended up doing that totally. I've done things like it. I've composed music for musicals, kids musicals, and things like that. Arranged a bunch of music for my choirs, and I've been a teacher. But it's taken a different path, and now I'm an entrepreneur and having my own business and doing things like that. So it's interesting how life takes you. And my advice to you for your first year is take it all in, experience it. It's such a different experience than high school, than home. Enjoy it. Stick to your studies, do what you need to do, but take it in and enjoy it and be open to possibilities. Because if you're not open for it, you'll miss out on so many cool things.
That's fantastic advice, and that's exactly like the mindset I'm trying to take going into this very different new phase of life. And yeah, it could end up being anything, and so the more of an open mind I can keep about it, the better the experience should be.
I love it. Well, let's say you're going to look back on this episode in 5 years. As of right now, today, what do you see yourself doing in 5 years?
5 years from now, it'd be really cool to get to work for a company like Google. I know they're moving a bunch of things to Austin. It's sort of becoming like a second, as of right now, it's becoming sort of a second Silicon Valley.
Oh, wow.
And they're building this huge big skyscraper in downtown Austin. And so it'd be cool to get to work with them. And if I was majoring in neuroscience too, I could maybe do some work on developing AI and things like that, just with that kind of background. And
you've always had interest in that, right? From what you did in high school and that stuff?
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. So I listen to a lot of podcasts and things, and I forget where I first heard this, but I remember when I first heard it, it just kind of shook me to my core. But someone pointed out that true AI will be the last thing we ever invent, and so we better do it well, because it'll either be the last thing we invent in a good way, in that it can invent everything perfectly and solve all of our problems and cure cancer and all those good things. But at the same time, it could also be the last thing we invent because there's no more us. And, so
that's two sides of that coin.
Exactly, yeah. And it's very big differences, and it seems to be somewhat inevitable that it's going to happen. I don't know when, could be 100 years from now, but you can't really stop science from progressing, and so if it's going to happen, it's better to try to do it right, I figure, than to...
I think that's always a good way to go through things in life. I always try getting it right as opposed to, I'm going to get it wrong and then get it right.
Yeah, in general, I've noticed it's just better to pick things that don't result in the end of the world. That's kind of been what I'm picking up as I get more mature.
Yeah. As opposed to the younger you that thought, destruction of the world, whatever.
Yeah, I was kind of indifferent to it, but, I'm starting to realize now it's got its drawbacks.
Well, look at you maturing like that. It's so nice. Like, I like the world to exist. This is good.
Yeah, it's a good thing. I'm a fan. Big fan. Would recommend.
Yeah. We'll try keeping it alive for all of you guys, too, so you can enjoy it. And, and it just made me think, and I'm going to be all philosophical for a second, because this is what I do, about getting things right and going for things to be right. And yeah, totally, right? You obviously want to make sure you get things right, especially AI, where it could be the end of us in two different senses of the word. But... or whatever, it's phrase. But in any case, go for things right, but don't be afraid to get things wrong. That's another piece of advice for you. Go for things. Don't be afraid to get something wrong, because you're going to learn from that experience, right?
Yeah.
If you get it wrong, you can fix it, you can adjust it, you can learn and grow, so that next time you have more experience, and that's how you get through things. I've messed up so many things in my life. It's sad, but I've learned from them, at least most of them, I think, and that's made me better and made me who I am today. And I'll be different in a year from now, 5 years when we watch this again, and we'll go, wow, I'm a totally different person than I was then.
Have our reunion episode.
Exactly, yes. When you listen to podcasts, you hear, if you listen to them regular, I've been listening to podcasts now for 5-6 years, something like that, and they have their, not reunion episodes, they have the same people on, every 100, 200 episodes, something like that.
Yeah.
So this is episode... right early 30s, I think 33, 34 for us, something like that. Somewhere in there, we'll find out. I batch record these, so I don't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but in any case, we'll see what number that is. So maybe 130, we'll get you back on.
Exactly,
We might have to phone you in from Austin, I'll fly down there or something, or we'll figure it out.
Yeah, well, I'd be happy to be back on.
Heck yeah.
What sorts of podcasts do you like to listen to, then?
So for me, I love listening to, business development's a huge one for me. I'm a huge Pat Flynn fan of the Smart Passive Income podcast.
Okay.
Pat's a great guy. Chris Ducker with his Upreneur things. I started listening to podcasts on my friend suggestion, Israel Dunn, the human-powered angler guy and shorebound angler. He and I went to Florida to fish for sailfish out of our kayak, right? So we did this whole adventure thing, and we were friends and still are friends. But he turned me onto podcasts and the business side of it. So I've been listening to a lot of those podcasts and keeping me going. Chalene Johnson and her Build Your Tribe ones. Things like that are where my focus is mainly.
Okay.
For podcasts I listen to just for business development and personal growth and personal development. How about you?
I listen to kind of a wide variety. For the business development, like you're talking about. I don't as much anymore, but last summer especially, I listened to a ton of the Mad Scientist podcast.
Yeah, and you suggested that one. I started listening to that recently.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that sort of that FIRE, financial independence type movement that I'm sure you're well familiar with.
Yep,
and,
very much so.
And passive income, all that. And so through that, it's got me really engaged and interested in index funds and real estate and just a lot of different...
That's awesome.
A lot of different investments, yeah.
So is that something you'll be dabbling in here in the future if you haven't already?
Yeah, I put a decent amount of my savings into the S&P 500 index from Vanguard.
Nice, good for you.
This March, back when everything went on sale. So,
good time to do it. Get it when it was low.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
My investments tanked. Just poof, gone. It was darn near negative numbers, and that was scary to see. But
what the future for a barrel of oil got to negative $40 or something at
right?
one point.
Like, and yet we're still paying for gas, but okay, we'll take that.
Exactly, yeah.
But at least it was under $1, at least up here in Wisconsin, so that was cool. And
Yeah, that was weird.
the nice part about investments, and this is a totally random episode now, but the nice part about investments is that, it'll bounce back,
Exactly,
so if you're able to, like I said, I'm in my 30s and you're, 18, then you'll be able to see it through. So, like, yeah, you were able to buy in this awesome time. At some point in your life, most likely there's going to be another one where it's going to drop down.
Yep.
But as long as you're able to, stay calm, it's going to bounce back and probably be stronger because of it. That's what we've seen for how many years and all that stuff. And I'm no expert by any means. I'm just going on what my financial advisors have told me and what I have seen and experienced. So,
yeah.
Good. Cool, man. So, let's bounce back a little bit here. Let's talk about your high school years, right? Now that they're behind you, and I'm sure you forgot most of them already. It's June that we're recording this, so you just graduated, so all forgotten, I'm sure. But what are some of your biggest achievements, biggest successes that you feel have been throughout your high school experience?
I think academically, I was fortunate enough to get valedictorian. I was one of the 3 from our class.
Dude, that's awesome. Congrats.
So, thank you. So I'm proud of that, and I had some, obviously, but some big parts in the musicals and the plays, the theater department. I was proud of how I was able to grow in that, because that was not, before high school, that wasn't really my thing. I was not experienced at all with singing and with acting and all that stuff. I was supposed to be captain of the tennis team this year, but tennis is a spring sport, so that didn't end up really going
the
through.
The whole coronavirus just had wiped out a lot of sports.
Yeah.
The spring sports suffered
exactly.
a lot.
Yeah, so we didn't even, it pretty much shut everything down like a week before our practices started.
Wow.
So
yeah, at least you weren't in the middle of the season or something.
Yeah. And I got to run some open court practices just with some of the younger guys in the summer, so I was really thankful for that experience.
Nice, that's awesome.
But I think probably what I'm most proud of from high school is that even though I was busy with school and sports and clubs and theater and all that stuff, I was still able to two things: stay in shape. One, that was sometimes really difficult depending on how busy things got, but also just keeping a growth mindset and trying to grow as a person and learn even outside of school, reading books, listening to podcasts. I think it wasn't always easy, but it was really important to me that I keep doing that outside of the classroom. So,
and that's huge. I mean, huge, especially from a person your age, to realize, I should have this growth mindset. I should always be looking for opportunities and ways to grow and mature and stay physically fit, right? You're so lucky enough that you're generally at that age where, especially, that you're just able to, eat whatever you want and not worry about the physical side of it. But you took care in yourself and invested in yourself enough to be like, no, I need to make sure I'm fueling myself right, lifting weights, running, or working out, doing the things that you need to do to make sure that you're in shape so you could be a tennis captain and do those other things that you love to do, which is huge for a person your age. What made you want to have that growth mindset? How did you even get turned on to this whole growth mindset thing?
I'm not sure what really started it, but it took a big turning point after my sophomore year. And I remember this specifically because I didn't read, but I listened on Audible to the book, I think it was called Millionaire Success Habits by Dean Graziosi.
Nice.
And that was my first exposure to really, really good self-development. And I've read a lot of self-development books. I don't read as much about them anymore, but I still think that was one of, if not the best one I ever read, just because it was really my first exposure to always trying to keep everything in a positive lens, and that there's some good to come out of every experience. And the book, the title Millionaire Success Habits sounds like it's really guru-y, and so I was skeptical at first, but I saw the reviews were 5 stars, and I was like, well, I might as well try it. I got nothing to lose, and because I had just signed up for Audible, so I got a free audiobook. I was like, I have literally nothing to lose here. I might as well try it.
Might as well.
And I just loved it, and so from there I was hooked, and that got me. I realized that really the biggest, most important thing I won't say most important, there's a lot of important things, but one of the most important things to just being a happy, being a successful, just being a well-adjusted person is constantly growing towards something that, like, I heard a quote, and I don't remember from where, but being requires becoming. So just that you're constantly working towards something greater than yourself, something improving yourself, and that kind of attitude.
To have that bigger goal in life, and hopefully it's one, because you're always going towards something. Always, whether you're going up or down, you're always going somewhere, right? That's never going to stop. That's never going to end until the day you die. And even then, well, that's another discussion, right? for other times. But until that day, right, you're always going somewhere. So why not pick where you're going and set that goal, set those aspirations of focusing on, like, I would like to do this with my life. I would like to do this, like you going to college, right? Even though you're not 100% sure exactly what field you're going into, which is great. You have an idea, and you know you're going to pursue that and see what that is, and see and work on it and flush it out to see if that is what you like. If it is, great. If not, you got other ones you could look at too, and you'll learn and discover so much more in college and what you want to lead to and go with. And that's one thing I think is huge in life. I mean, heck, that's why I wrote my book, Chase Your Passions, the personal development book there, is because, go after your passions, figure out what it is, and once you dive into it, maybe you realize this is totally it, or you realize, yeah, no, not so much, this is just going to be, a part-time fun little hobby that I have here, or not at all, and move, and things change as life changes, and, the older you get and the different life phases, if you want to call them that, you go through, it's going to change, and that's totally cool, and I love seeing you have that mindset already, and, I knew Alex from when we taught, and I worked with him with musicals, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but I saw something inside him. I saw that he had that resilience, and we chatted a little bit about this stuff, but, I never knew that you had that growth mindset. You never used those words. You never described him that way, but there was something about him that just, he wanted more. He looked for more, and that's one of the reasons why I invited him on the show, was because he always, had that embodiment, right? He had that energy about him. So when you reach out to me telling me about this cool method, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but I'm like, oh dude, hey, this is awesome. Would you, now that you graduated high school, I wanted to at least wait till you graduated, but then would you be interested in being on this show? And hearing about that is awesome. So if you could give, and we'll do this again a little later, but if you can give a piece of advice to people listening right now of any age, for them to take control, to go towards that goal in life, whatever, what would you suggest that they do? How do you suggest they do it?
Well, first of all, thank you. That was very, very high praise. But for the advice, probably everything you do carries momentum. And so you don't have to get up tomorrow and run a marathon if you are 200 pounds overweight. Like, you don't have to instantly jump to the end of a goal. But it's about momentum. And everything you do is either forwarding or inhibiting the momentum toward what you want to become. I heard a quote once that was, every action you take is a vote for the kind of person you want to become. So I think personal growth isn't about doing these huge, sweeping changes. It's about little incremental things, tiny little things, and getting better at. And you don't, really, I don't think you even need to want it at first. You just have to want it. Because as you do it, and as you kind of get more into the swing of things, of self-development and just all kinds of things of how, whether it's health, whether it's learning, whether it's your finances, anything, as you do more of it, the good feeling that you get from it becomes intoxicating, and you want to do more of it. So as long as you want to do it, and you can extrapolate that like turtles all the way down. I mean, if you want to do something, that's something, and you can build from that. You can turn that into stronger desire, into stronger habits, and really just the more you can build habits, just the better. Because I hear a lot of people, they talk about, I would do this, I just don't have the willpower. Willpower doesn't really, willpower, I would say it's a skill, you can get better at it, and it'll make forming habits easier. But it's not really about willpower. I mean, it's not like when you or I who like work out fairly routinely, like if we work out, it's not like you're sitting there, you're like, okay, today I'm going to work out because I'm going to tell myself to, even though I don't want to. It's like, you're in the habit of it. You get out of bed, you brush your teeth, you don't think about it. Like when it's this time of day, you work out, and it's not it's not the struggle that it used to be if you're just getting started. You know, it's this habit, and so it can be hard and daunting at first if you're not really on a self-development path to see how everything will snowball, and how the more you do things from a growth mindset, the more it'll encourage that growth mindset, and it just exponentially gets better and better. But you just kind of got to trust that it's going to happen, and not listen to your brain sometimes when it tells you that it won't.
I love the fact that, you gave that quote, like, that you're voting for the person you want to become. And another way is, I've never heard that expression before, but the ones I've heard is like you're putting a coin into the jar of who you're becoming, right? You're either adding a coin or you're taking it away of the person you want to be, the goal you're going towards, whatever. And an awesome advice, first of all, of saying, you don't have to run a marathon tomorrow, right? It's not about getting to that goal right now. It's about the journey. It's about that process of getting there. And, it's those little things you do every single day. And it's that one to start, right? Or however you want to, deep down you go. It's shifting your mindset. It's shifting that energy. Now we're a little philosophical. It's shifting the energy that you have inside you, just that little bit, to say, oh, I want to do this, I am going to do this, right? Or I'm focusing on this. It's switching it. And just that little incremental switch every single day makes huge changes, right? When I first started working out, I started off with P90X, and I lost 20 pounds in those 90 days. I didn't lose the 20 pounds after day one, right? It took 90 days to lose those 20 pounds, right? Every day I put in a coin to the jar. I put in that vote, and I just kept getting closer and closer to my goal. And then eventually now I lost 40 pounds, right? From where I was, and it's huge, but it's those little things every single day that make all the difference. So awesome advice for someone starting out. So I'm going to bounce back to school when we met, and we worked through musicals a lot. I was a musical director for almost all the musicals there, and helped him out with not so much the acting aspect of it, but the singing, right? How to sing.
Yeah.
And because he was a band guy, and he's a good singer, which is awesome. He got leads in a couple of the musicals, which is awesome. He earned them and did a fantastic job. And it's been great to see him grow throughout this whole music, throughout the years of high school, but through the musicals and all that. But one of the things I noticed is there was times that it was really struggling, especially your junior year. Junior year is, probably most of you know, is one of the most challenging years of your time in high school, because just all the hard classes, and your senior year can be hard or easy depending which route you take. But your junior year was a really big struggle for you. The musicals we were working on were very time consuming. You had a lead in there, and it was just, I saw you were tired, you were struggling, and yet you were talked about this personal development thing that it wasn't easy, and I saw that inside you, although we never really discussed it, at least not too much. We discussed working out occasionally, but that's as far as that went. So how did you persevere through that time, and how did you come from it being so difficult for you at the time with, you still have all your schoolwork and the teachers are demanding, and I know some of those teachers with the hours of homework that you had to do, on top of the musical work, which took hours, and then everything else that, personal development and, all of it. How did you manage to do all that?
Well, so junior year, and even to some extent, to a lesser extent, the first part of senior year, was difficult for a lot of reasons. It's probably the most intense that schoolwork pretty much gets throughout high school. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, junior year I was in 2 varsity sports, and I had, of course, the fall play, which I had to lead in, and then the spring musical, which I had a sizable part in. And so it was a lot to try to handle on top of school. Mm-hmm. But I think the biggest thing that I really struggled with junior year and the first part of senior year was that I had some I say health problems, because a lot of people would have said just straight out depression, but I took that kind of growth mindset, and I was like, okay, things are not seeming right here. Mm-hmm. Like this is not the way my brain usually works. And and I'd been meditating luckily long enough that I could sort of a lot of the times just dismiss however pessimistic my brain was feeling at the time. And I was like, something is wrong here. And I don't just want to go, ask for some sort of SSRI and just, shut it down. And so I was like, well, maybe like this will be like my new focus with personal development, and like let's see what is going on here, because my sort of philosophy behind it, and I just heard this analogy in a book I'm reading right now, and I think it's an awesome analogy. It's like that depression can be seen as just being like the smoke on a fire. So like if the fire department saw a house with smoke on it, they wouldn't go, "Oh my God, there's smoke. Get the fans." Right? Like they'd go, "Oh my God, there's a fire in there. We need to find it and put it out." And so I kind of took that approach, and I dove deep, and I figured out after it took a while, and I figured out there was a lot of there was things like there was some fires going on. I had an undiagnosed sleeping disorder, which was obviously not helpful.
Right.
I figured out my iron levels were really low.
Wow.
Turns out if you work out a lot and donate blood and intake enough calcium through milk, because Wisconsin, that it blocks your iron absorption, your ferritin will get really low, and that can really affect your cognition, and it really impairs your brain's ability to produce neurotransmitters if it doesn't have that iron on hand. And so that was
stuff even I didn't know. Okay.
And so so that was big, and then I also had a lesser but still a vitamin D deficiency, and so a CPAP machine and 2 supplements later, and I feel great again, and so I hesitate to just say that like during that time I was depressed, because yes, I was having those symptoms, but it's not like that was wrong. Like that was a normal response to the fact that I had physiologically things that are wrong with me, and I'm thankful that I went through that tough time, but both from like a mental toughness, like grit perspective, like I know if I can get through that, I can get through anything. But then on top of that, I would rather have had that and figured out that I had sleep apnea and that I had ferritin deficiency and all this stuff that really could have caused health problems down the road.
Mm-hmm. And, huge issues later on, for sure.
And if I hadn't had that smoke from that fire, if I hadn't had just the mental cloudiness and the just not feeling myself, I wouldn't have been able to track any of that down. And that's not to say that all mental health issues are physiologically based. Like there's a lot of different causes.
Right.
But I had a very strong feeling that in my case it was physiologically caused, and so I said, okay, well this is going to be my new focus in self-development. I'm going to figure out what's going on, and now we've focused on, I know a lot about finances, I know a lot about physical health. Let's work on mental health. Let's see that kind of connection. So that's sort of where that neuroscience component comes in, and why I'm considering studying that, because I think the brain is just fascinating.
I think there's so many interesting things about the brain though, and we only graze the surface, touch the surface of that, because it's just so incredible what it can do. And so would you suggest to people who see the smoke, who feel symptoms of something, whatever it is, would you suggest that they look to try to figure out what the fire is? Absolutely, yeah. And that's not to say like shut off medicine, because like listen to your doctor. First and foremost, talk to your doctor and listen to your doctor. That's important. Let me butt in for a quick second. I was going to say this at the end of it, but we'll say it now. Make sure as you're searching for the fire, be smart, be safe. We are not replacing any medical things.
Neither one of us are qualified in any way, shape, or form. So don't take us, don't sue us, anything like that. But be smart about it. See your doctor, talk to your doctor, do what's right for you, see a therapist, whatever you need to do to solve these issues. But if you see the smoke, right, if you see things happening in your life and you want that to change, then seek the appropriate help to solve it, to find those fires and resolve it, whatever that is, whether it's a doctor for medicine or a doctor of your mind, right, to see a therapist, whatever you need. We'll let you continue. But there's our nice little legal notice. Yeah. Exactly, yeah. So what I'm pretty much talking about is more additive. Like, what can you do on top of whatever else is the top of the line recommended by people who actually have qualifications, people who have actually been given at least their high school diplomas, which I have not yet. Soon, hopefully, yeah. But I think taking control can be huge. So, for instance, like there's a whole suite of things that the way I look at it, like there's a whole suite of things that'll make your mental health better and a whole that will make itself worse. So if you concentrate on doing those things that'll make it better, even even if it's not like that kind of night and day, like run a marathon tomorrow change, it means a lot to feel like you are now in the driver's seat, like you're the person who's like working, and that you have this, it's this incredible amount of hope that you get, like there is this fire and I'm gonna find it. And I kind of, based on what I've read, in my non-expert opinion, it seems like there's three main sources of that sort of that smoke, that depression and anxiety. And it seems like number one is sort of just physiological. Like your health is huge. And I'll talk a little bit more about this. I have my own theories about why health might be the most important one in a minute. But health is huge. And anything going wrong here affects what's going on up here. And your brain is an extremely sensitive, extremely complex thing. And if things are going wrong in your body, they're going to go wrong in your brain. It's just a guarantee. The question is just how much. And then also you have psychological, and this is to me a fairly broad category, but just basically at a very simplified level, it's just any sort of traumas in the past or negative thought loops that you can get stuck in, personal narratives that are destructive, that sort of thing. And then there's also big social influences, and social kind of meaning environmental as a whole, but also just interacting with people. So if you're in a really terrible environment, I'd qualify that as social too, but like, if you're subject to, abuse and all this stuff, like if you're in this bad environment, that can cause these problems. But also if you don't have like deep, close social connections, where it's a mutual relationship of aid and protection, and it's these deep, close relationships, that's tough. And if you think about, like the lens I kind of try to put things in when I'm thinking about this is, we're genetically almost identical to the humans that first appeared in East Africa millions of years ago. But our environment has changed drastically. We live in a very different world from that. Right. And so you kind of got to think, like, with these things going wrong, like, what would this have meant back then? And so if you don't have those close relationships, those connections, that sort of that tribe around you to surround yourself with, and to insulate yourself with, that can also be a huge source of depression. Because if you think about it, if you were on the savannah and you were separated from the tribe, if you didn't have those deep personal connections, you were going to die. Like humans are, we
need that community.
Exactly. Yeah. We're not humans compared to a lot of animals. We're not very strong. We're not that fast, but we're really smart and we can work together. And so if you're not working together, if you're not having those relationships, your brain knows something is wrong. So it's this kind of idea that like depression and anxiety aren't necessarily like unfounded, that there is that fire there. Right. And that maybe it's not necessarily as relevant today, but the fact is that mechanism is meant to be there in your brain, and that you're being separated from the tribe, and alarm signals are going off in your brain all the time, and it's this terribly tragic thing. But we don't have that sort of context to frame that in today's world. Right. It's very
different nowadays.
Yeah. Right. And people a lot of times, especially now, will think that like, if you're looking at this screen and you're seeing like the little letters that get sent by your friends, that like that's social interaction, and it's not at all, and that's not fooling your brain. And we live in a very disconnected world. And so right now I'm reading. Have you heard of Johann Hari? He's a journalist and an author. I have not. No. He's written some fantastic books, and I first heard him on some podcasts and some TED Talks, and then I'm just starting to kind of dive into his works, and I'm reading his book called Lost Connections right now, and he's talking about this, and it's absolutely fascinating, the studies that have been done on this sort of thing. And
it's amazing. I've heard some of the studies based on that, and I've heard many quotes and things, like your fight or flight symptoms that we have about life, even like salesmen who are afraid to make that call, or a person who wants to do that. Well, it makes sense, especially fight or flight, because you're nervous, you're scared, but you don't have a saber-toothed tiger trying to attack you now, right? Like you might have years and years ago. So it's different. We have to put it in different context. And I like the aspect of those three different parts of your person, and that's huge. And it made me think like, okay, what are we doing here at Jonesin for? What am I trying to promote and help? Well, trying to make sure you have a community, right? You have a community of people, whether it's your family, your close friends, or the Jonesin 4 tribe of people, right? That you're part of now.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome, and you're part of this tribe, and so we're a community who are here to help and support you and be there for you digitally and physically, hopefully, through different events. But that's one aspect. But then also, like, we want you to take care of yourself mentally. So getting all those negative self-talks, right? We talk about how to keep positivity in your life, how to be grateful, and how to make sure that you're staying on the right side of those tracks, right? So instead of getting down into that downward negative spiral. And also then, I forgot the other one. Oh my gosh, it was called person. But the fact that, the physical self, that you should take care of yourself physically, eat well, that you're working out, you're making sure you raise your heart rate up, and if you get a full workout, and great, you do these things, right? If you can
sleep,
sleep is huge.
It's the most important thing all day.
Sleep is like number one on my list, right? It's right up there.
Yeah.
I need 7.5 to 8 hours. I can do the 6 once or twice a week, but I really prefer like 7.5 to 8 hours, and then I'm golden. And that's like necessary for me.
Have you read Dr. Matthew Walker's book, Why We Sleep?
He's more he's more versed in all these things than I am. It's great. I love it. I love having smarter people.
We're in
on
a
my
pretty
show.
narrow category of things that I'm well versed in. So,
But
broadly
I'm
speaking, you've probably read a lot more books than me. But
well, and I like your idea of Audible that you mentioned earlier, because I'm a huge Audible fan. I listen to books on tape through Audible, or actually, when I first started, my first personal development book was Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy, and amazing book, so good. I highly recommend it. But I downloaded it from my library, which was free. So I started because I didn't want to spend money on it, because I was really skeptical of personal development when I started, and I thought this is just hogwash. But you know what? I'm gonna commit. I'm gonna actually try and focus on it. Saw great reviews. One for this one, it was free from the library. Downloaded on like their audiobook listening app thing, and was hooked ever since then. From day one, and I tried it. Actually, they committed. Life changed forever. But it's, anyway, you combine all these things, right? Your community, your health, your mental health, that's going to make you 1,000 times better. So let's we'll slowly wrap up our conversation here. So we're all over the map, but I mean we'll recap at the end for you of what we can remember of all the places we've been. So you have this growth mindset. You talk about these 3 parts of your being and achieving so many things in life. The growth mindset. Do you how do you do this all now? Like where you are now, how do you keep it going? Do you have routines that you do in a day? Like what? How do you keep this going? Because it sounds like you have so much going on. And I know I do, and I know you do, our listeners and viewers do. How do you keep this going every day?
Well, I think you said it in your questions, routines. That's the biggest thing, to just have a set pattern of the things you do. Because if you're constantly choosing like, oh, what do I want to do right now? You're not gonna choose the things that are gonna lead you to that growth mindset, and probably the things that are gonna make you feel the happiest. You're gonna choose the things that are the quickest rewards for the least amount of effort, because that's how your brain is programmed, and that's that's all of us. Our brain, like you, me, all of our brains are programmed to do that. We want dopamine, and we want it now, and we want it easy.
Right.
But absolutely, routines. That's huge.
So walk us through your daily routine.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
I had a feeling this question was coming. So, I'll usually wake up around 10, and then first thing I do is I jump right into a cold shower. Usually I do a 2.5 minute one in the morning.
Okay.
And then I'll go make breakfast, usually some mixture of fruit, oatmeal, and eggs, or just leftovers. And then after breakfast, I'll go out and I'll go for a walk down to the park at the end of my neighborhood. And it's on this peninsula, and there's water on 3 sides. And so I'll sit there with the just lake all around me, and I'll just meditate there for usually about 10 minutes. And then I'll come back, I'll walk back. And then when I get back, that's usually around 11:30ish, and that's when I like to try to get done whatever task I got to do today. Like whatever, like if I got to go to the bank, if I got to go to the pharmacy, like whatever little errand or something that I got to run.
Gotcha.
If there's an email I need to send, something like that, that's when I try to get that done. Just get it out of the way right away. And then I spend usually the next couple hours just trying to broadly engaged in learning, whether that could be a lot of different things. I've been I've been trying to keep my mind active.
Yourself.
Yeah, so
Gotcha.
I've been exploring a whole bunch of different avenues during this pandemic, just trying to keep myself engaged. I've been reading about like psychopharmacology. I've been teaching myself guitar. I've been learning Brazilian Portuguese. I've been just all over the place with what I've been trying to do to keep my mind busy, because
it's hard during the pandemic
keep your mind
time,
busy, yeah.
Right?
So I'm just kind of all over the place there, and then usually in the afternoon, that's when I'll do my workout. Usually it's more strength based. Just personally, because I love cardio, and I do mix in cardio usually a couple times a week, but I try to keep it mostly focused on strength, because even though cardio feels really great, I'm trying to personally build muscle a little bit. So I do a lot of strength work, and then I'll do abs, and then my favorite part comes after that workout then.
To the shake? Is it the shake afterwards? That's one of my favorite parts.
No, second I get out, I'm done. I'm all sweaty, and I just jump right into another cold shower.
Oh, man, wow.
Usually this one's about 15 minutes, and granted, my shower does not have super great water pressure, so if it was a different shower, I'd probably not be able to last 15 minutes. But for this one, I usually go about 15 minutes, and sometimes I'll listen to music, but usually I just try to keep it just quiet and just try to focus on not shivering, first of all. And I can get into why that's important in a second. But on just being present and not flinching from the reflex because it's uncomfortable. Because that's all it is. It's uncomfortable. It's not, or it starts out uncomfortable. It gets fun after a while. But once you start getting that beautiful suite of neurotransmitters that it releases, then it's fun. But
so let's keep going with your routine. We'll get to that in a bit.
So the cold shower, and then I get out, and then I do breath work, and then then I'll meditate, and then by this time it'll usually be late afternoon, early evening, and after I do that workout, cold shower, breath work, meditation, my brain is it's in this perfectly calm but also energetic and focused state. So I could do anything from nap to solve a calculus problem. Like my brain is primed and it's ready for whatever, and I'm just in this great mood, and it's this just wonderful feeling. And then so usually I'll read a little bit after that, or if I got like laundry or something, I'll do laundry and listen to do my like exercises on my app for Portuguese and stuff like that, and then I'll usually go to dinner, and then after dinner, that's just kind of my relaxed time, whether I'm listening to music or podcast, just something like that, and just sort of relax. And sometimes I'll get on, and if my friends are online playing a video game, I'll play with them. But I got pretty sick of video games altogether after about the first 3 days of quarantine.
Yeah.
So I don't really do that as much, but
it sounds like a great routine. First of all, I wish I could have that life back again and have that routine, because I was, being an entrepreneur, I had my own job, but when I did have a job, your routine shifts, and you'll realize that, like you did when you were in school, when you go off to college, you have to shift your routine because that's life, right? And so you adjust it to the life that you're in at the moment, but you're still going to have all those the key things that you need in there, right? So it's an awesome routine for summer. I love it, and I'm curious to see how you adjust it as it goes on. Or as you go on to these different pathways. I can't talk today. It's hard. I need more coffee. Okay, so we're getting near the end of our podcast here, but we'll wrap it up here with you talking about these cold shower things, because we talked about it beforehand, and now he was going into all the fun stuff and neurotransmitter stuff about showers. So talk to us about this breathing thing and that you mentioned, because I know that's part of it, and the cold shower thing, because you're talking about shivering in a shower. That does not sound fun to me.
Yeah, so what I do more or less is something called the Wim Hof method, which you may or may not have heard of. It's been growing a lot over the past couple of years on the internet in popularity, and pretty much Wim Hof is this crazy Dutch guy. If you're gonna hear about it, I recommend listening to people talk who aren't Wim Hof, because his English isn't the best, and he doesn't super seem to understand the science behind it. But whether by accident or by some sort of secret genius, he's stumbled upon this sort of practice, and it's a combination of cold exposure, of breath work, and of just mindfulness, consciously controlling aspects of yourself that are generally thought of as just being automatically controlled. So like, in his case, he can manipulate his body temperature and immune system and teach people how to do it. And now I haven't actually taken one of his courses or a course from his teacher. I'd really like to someday after this whole pandemic thing is settled down. And I know that it sounds very guru-y. And I just actually finished reading a book by a guy who debunks gurus, and he's an investigative journalist, and that's just what he does for his living. And so he went out to go train with Wim Hof to try to debunk him, and he came back just a devout believer in it.
Wow.
And he said he lost 7 pounds of fat while he was doing it, and I'll get into that in a second, and that has to do with the not shivering thing. But he wrote the entire book just pretty much praising this idea that we're meant to have these environmental stresses like the cold. We're evolved to have it. We're not meant to live in climate controlled, comfortable spaces all the time. And there's parts of our physiology and of our nervous system that if they're not triggered by this cold, it can have really, really serious negative effects. And so, for instance, your blood vessels are lined by muscles, right? And so if you're really warm, those muscles will relax and you go into what's called vasodilation, and that'll let off more heat. But if you're cold, you go into vasoconstriction, and all those muscles will contract, and that'll try to conserve heat. So if you can systematically send yourself into that extreme vasoconstriction, whether that's through a cold shower or an ice bath or the breath work that I mentioned briefly also will put you into vasoconstriction, you train those blood vessels along your arteries to be more efficient and to handle more of the load of delivering the blood throughout the body. So it takes less strain on the heart, and you get more efficient at delivering oxygen and nutrients throughout the body. It's essentially very similar to what cardio does in that regard. But
interesting.
But it's
not cardio.
But it's not cardio, and it significantly lowered my resting heart rate. Just doing the Wim Hof method, and on top of that, with respect to the nervous system, like you were mentioning earlier, that fight or flight response, that sort of that amygdala response where your body thinks that it's in danger. Well, we're meant to have that every now and then, and obviously we're not going to go out and try to find a predator to almost get killed by. That'd be crazy. But,
yeah, don't go find a bear or tiger to have fun with or anything.
I got hit in the head by a red-winged blackbird the other day, and it activated that response, and I'm so used to the Wim Hof that I was like, that feels good. But yeah, so the cold exposure can activate those same systems. And the way I kind of like to explain it is with really smart dog breeds. Like, I used to have a border collie, and so I always use that as the example. But with a border collie, you got to give it a job because it's really smart and it loves doing jobs and it's really good. But if you don't give it a job, it will find a job, and you will not like the job that it finds. So I equate that. That's sort of my metaphor then for that stress response, that sympathetic nervous system where it wants to do something. It's there to do something, and if it's not doing anything, your body thinks something is wrong. So if you're not selectively activating it, through cold exposure or breath work or things like that, it's gonna find things to activate for. So and it sounds like a weird thing in concept, but in practice, it's powerfully anxiolytic. I pretty much never stress out about anything anymore as long as I can keep doing my Wim Hof things. Stress is just a non-factor in my life, just because the sympathetic nervous system just doesn't engage as much. It has its own little workout.
Right, that makes sense. Kind of makes sense, and
yeah,
as much as I can, at least as I'm listening to it. What other benefits have you found from doing the Wim Hof method?
So I started doing it just because it feels really good. You release some very powerful neurotransmitters in terms of mood regulation. And so you release, for instance, for people who think this is interesting like me, you're releasing norepinephrine, you're releasing some dopamine, and what I found is really interesting is releasing these things called endocannabinoids, which, like the name suggests, act similar to the compound cannabis, except the name is misleading. It's actually the other way around. We just discovered them second. Cannabis mimics these but we have these chemicals in our body, and they act as they act as mood regulators, as appetite regulators, and as pain regulators.
Wow.
And so that's pretty much why I started, was that sort of nice chemical soup in the nervous system, trying to get that right. And it really does. It feels awesome. The Wim Hof it has just drastically improved my day-to-day mood. And but on top of that, there's all these little benefits that I didn't personally go out trying to do, but I don't know, they're pretty nice. I used to have pretty bad allergies.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't had so much as a sniffle this year. Part of that is that it seems to really help with autoimmune disorders. Okay. So allergies, to a very mild degree, fall into that category of autoimmune things, of your immune system not functioning properly. But I've heard stories about people with like Parkinson's and rheumatoid arthritis, these like chronic terminal conditions, who regain control of their lives and they start actually decreasing the amount of medicine they have to take because they do the Wim Hof method, and it I don't want to say suppresses the immune system, because it also seems to really improve the immune system's ability to fight off illnesses, which is more relevant now than ever.
Right.
But it sort of I don't know how to explain it, because the science behind how it works is not totally understood. There's some really cool studies about what it does, particularly out of Radboud University in the Netherlands, but as to how, there's not really a good explanation, but somehow it makes your immune system do more what it's supposed to do and target foreign invaders, and do less of, targeting yourself, giving you asthma, giving you allergies, giving you, eczema, all these things.
So would you suggest that, now again, we're not doctors, we're not anything like that. He's basing this on his experience from what he's noticed and research and stuff like that. But based on that and your experience, would you suggest people look into the Wim Hof method, chat with their doctors, and see if it's something that's right for them?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think unless you have a cardiovascular condition, in which case, like particularly atrial fibrillation, I know it can be at risk with the breath work, because you're having an unnaturally low amount of CO2 in your blood, and your pH is less acidic when you do that, which normally is good, but for some heart conditions can be a little scary. But unless you have that, and obviously consult your doctor, but unless you have some sort of medical condition that could be at risk with this, I think everybody else would absolutely get benefit from it. And it sounds on the surface level a little bit almost like woo-woo kind of like spiritual guru type stuff. And that is not like my scene at all. So that I had heard about it for months before I actually checked it out, because I thought it was
I give out for that. He's not like that at all. when I heard of Wim Hof the first time, I thought it was the same thing until I tried it a little bit, but I haven't fully committed like Alex has to it. So yeah, I'm with you. I suggest do the research, give it a shot. If it works for you, chat with your doctors. We're not experts by any means. Just like workout programs, chat with your doctor, make sure it's right for you, or whatever you need to do. Just do the research, be smart before you jump in. So let's wrap up our show. It's been a long one, but an awesome one, I think. And we started off with chatting about what you're doing, where you're going in life with your goals that you have going. But also, then we discovered you have this awesome growth mindset, and that everyone should have growth mindset into personal development. That's huge. And the three pillars of having community, working on your mental well-being, and then also your physical well-being. That those three are really play into each other. And the Jonesin 4 tribe is there to help you with that, but your family and your friends and all those people are there to help you to have that, and then kind of mix it into routines, and then the Wim Hof method and all that stuff, kind of for a well-rounded bit here. So we'll wrap it up with, what should we see? We'll do one last question for you. Okay. And that question is, so if our viewers and listeners have sons or daughters, right, of whatever age, but let's say high school, because you just got out of high school, what tips or suggestions would you give them to help their kids be successful, finishing up high school or college, or just help them be successful?
That's a $1 million question right there. But I'd say don't be forceful. As somebody who is a teenager, we have a very strong tendency to be very angsty and very pathologically, we pathologically reject authority sometimes. And so telling your kids, you have to do this, you have to do that, is not necessarily the way to go about it. As to how to inspire them to do things, I would say exposure in their environment to you doing these sorts of things, as a parent, is probably the biggest thing. And just having it be in their environment, especially if you can start when they're younger, then that's something that'll encourage them in the future. But it pretty much it has to be intrinsic. You know, it has to they have to want to have that growth mindset. And sure, like you can tell them about like growth mindset and things like that, but don't. I think the word "should" is a very very dangerous one. I think a lot of teenagers, when they hear the words "you should," everything else is just like that trombone from Charlie Brown, where it's just wah 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 wah, and so just to be as it's tough. It's a tough line to walk.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm not a parent, but I applaud everyone who is, because it's a tough road to walk for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And and that's good advice. I mean, I think to encourage, to expose, but without being forceful. And as you said, I think it needs to come from inside, right? But you can foster it and you can help it along and get them going at an early age through personal development by hearing and seeing what you do. I know, just as a quick thing, with my workout and fitness friends, right? They work out with their kids, and it's usually home fitness programs, right? The stuff that I do, and so then they're doing it at home, and all of a sudden their daughter joins on, or their son joins on, or they do something like that. And it's just them seeing, and even if they don't join, they see you bettering yourself every day, and that's huge, and that lives with them for the rest of their life, and hopefully in a good way that encourages them to keep working and improving themselves in some way, shape, or form. So anyway, that's off a little different tangent there. But Alex, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
I really enjoyed this. So much fun. I'm so glad we were able to get you on the show. And folks, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Alex, where can people learn more about you, kind of follow you and your adventures as you go on to college and live your amazing life?
I'm not super huge on social media or anything, but I do have an Instagram, Ullrich5, I think, and I post sparingly on there, and then, but so it won't clog up your feed or anything. But I'm sure as I progress in life and I meet these goals and I start working toward more things, I'll be sharing some of those things on that platform. Yeah.
Well, and I'll make sure I get his Instagram handle and all that stuff linked up in our show notes. So if you want to get to those, just go to my website, spencermjones.com. Just look for the Jones and 4 Show tab and click on this podcast episode, and you can get all the show notes there. They're all written out there for you, so you can kind of review what we talked about if you like doing it that way, and then also the links so you can follow Alex. And I strongly suggest you follow Alex and keep up on his adventures. Send him a message, a DM, and let him know that you heard him on the show and that you liked it, or what you liked specifically about it. And then, as always, if you could subscribe, like this, I would really appreciate it. Write a comment, share it out with your friends, and help inspire. Heck, share this with your kids or people that you know to help inspire and encourage them to go after it. Because if this 18-year-old kid can have this idea of this growth mindset and really fully commit to these 3 pillars of life, it's phenomenal. If he can do it, and inspire me to do it, he can inspire you and your friends to do it as well. So, Alex, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening today, folks, and until next time, I will catch y'all later. Hey everyone, Spencer Jones, and I'm sorry to butt in like this, but I'll keep this really short and sweet. I want to help you live your life to the max. I want to help you chase your passions to get the most out of life. And I wrote a book to help you do that. It's my latest book. It's called Chase Your Passions. It's available on Amazon, and I know it can help you change your life and help you live your life to the max. It's basically in the book, I walk you through how to create the ultimate roadmap to success. Whatever that success looks like for you, it walks you through it. Everybody has a different roadmap because everybody's dream, everybody's goal is different. So everybody's roadmap is going to be different. But this book helps you, guides you in creating your personal roadmap to success. So folks, don't delay. Get on Amazon and just look up Chase Your Passions. I put Spencer Jones in there too, just to be safe, so it pulls up right away. Or go to my website, spencermjones.com, and get your copy of it today. And heck, get the Priorities of Practice journal with it, because that companion journal, that makes it that much sweeter. All right, folks, thanks for listening. I told you I'd keep it short and sweet. Catch you soon.